strike pitch. Got him swinging. Mike Bria strikes out the side. 4 straight Ks for Michael. Drills one deep to center field. That ball is out of here.
That's a huge swing of the bat right there by Pelles.
Comes with the fastball. He caught him looking. Strike 3. 2 up, 2 down, and 2 Ks for Monteverdi. DeAndre swings and hammers one deep to left field. Moss running back on it, and that ball is gone! Isaiah DeAndre with the first Griff bomb. Pitch coming. Swing and a miss. He got him with the heater. George Coyle.
This is the 2020 Seton Hill University Baseball Season Preview Show. Here's Dan Flickinger and the head coach of the Griffins, Mark Marizaldi.
Hello, Griff baseball fans, and welcome to the 17th season of Seton Hill University Baseball and our annual preview show. I'm Dan Flickinger with the Westmoreland Sports Network, and joining me is the only head coach in the program's history of Seton Hill University Baseball. Of course, he is Coach Maz, Mark Marizaldi, and Coach, always an exciting time every time we get together and get a chance to talk Griff baseball with our annual preview show, and you guys start the season in just a few days.
Yeah, this is a good warm-up for me. We know the season is approaching, but it's like officially underway once you and I get together and comb through our roster, and it gets me prepared for that first game of the season every year.
Well, Coach Maz and I will be talking a lot during the regular season on our pregame shows and our postgame shows as well. We want to welcome everybody watching here to our annual preview show. We want to start this year's show by remembering a brother. Freshman pitcher McLain from Penn Trafford passed away in a car accident on January 25th. And again, Maz, I want to send my condolences to you, the baseball team, and Mac's family. I'm sure it's been a very emotional time for you and the guys.
It has. I really can't put into words what our players, our families, our entire baseball program, the whole Seton Hill community, what we've gone through in the last 2.5 weeks. It's an unthinkable tragedy. It's something that I'm hoping I just wake up and realize it was a dream, but that's not the case. We've experienced a lot of different emotions, and we will continue to throughout, not just this season, but for years to come. And I'm sure, we'll talk about McLain a little bit more, and his impact is more than just a kid that was on this campus for a few months. So I'm so incredibly proud of our players and just the strength and the perseverance that they've shown just in the last couple of weeks. But again, it's something we're going to be dealing with for quite a while, and I'm sure that we've experienced a lot of emotions and there's a lot still ahead. But the biggest strength in this whole tragedy and the whole process of grieving has just been each other. Strength in numbers, I guess. Our players have really come together. They've created a fantastic bond and relationship with the Mon family, and I think that closeness will continue to help us heal.
And we have one of McLain's jerseys hanging up behind Maz here on our preview show. You'll get a chance to see that. I had a chance to watch Mac play, call some of his games at Penn Trafford, and as a matter of fact, I got a chance to call when he pitched, I believe it was against Infield at Seton Hill. And he mowed him down, man. He threw a shutout, and I had a chance to talk with him on the postgame show afterwards. And the one thing that really stood out to me about Mac was his personality and how excited he was to play at Seton Hill and how excited he was to pitch the way he did at Seton Hill in high school. Those things really stood out to me. And as a matter of fact, we're going to play that postgame interview back for you after we talk with Coach Maz. We're also going to be talking with Tommy Pelles. So after we talk with Tommy, we're going to kind of play that back for you at the end of our post-game interview. Certainly very emotional to listen to that, but we thought it was important to play that to continue to try to remember Mac, and certainly someone that made an impact, Maz, at Seton Hill, even though he was only here for a few months.
Yeah, you had a really good opportunity to follow his career, especially Penn Trafford's run last year into the Whitfield State playoffs. So, you followed Mac's progress. He was a highly touted, very successful high school player. But I've shared this story with a lot of people. Mac started attending our baseball camps here at Seton Hill when he was 9 years old. So usually when you're recruiting a player, you start that relationship with them maybe their junior, senior year in high school. But our relationship with Mac went all the way back to probably when he was about third grade, when he was attending our camps. And it had always been kind of an unsaid thing that he was going to end up here playing baseball at Seton Hill. He did have a lot of other opportunities to go to other schools. But I think, over 10 years ago, he was meant to be a Griffin and always wanted to be here. So
I remember when he committed on Twitter, I think I saw Mike McCarthy, was congratulating him. And I was trying to figure out, I wonder how Mike, obviously he's an alum and he's going to congratulate anybody, but I had a feeling that Mac was attending the camps that Mike, was working at. So he has had a Seton Hill tie for a long time.
And even Mac's viewing, I think Brandon Josie attended, DJ Cannon attended, Mike McCarthy attended, Anthony Finelli attended. And those are guys that were previous coaches in our program, yet they're honoring a freshman who's only been on campus for 5 months. And that just shows the deep relationship that the Mon family and Mac had with Seton Hill baseball.
What have you guys done as a team to help grieve? I know it's been, again, a very emotional time for you.
We have a lot of difficult talks. The challenging part for me and the rest of our coaching staff is understanding that we have, 48 guys on the team who all experience grief in a different way. Our freshmen are experiencing this a lot different than our older guys because they live with Mac. They spend every single day in the dorms with him. So there's just so many different levels to this where we have to be aware and cognizant that every kid on the team grieves differently and it's affecting them in many different ways. So we've had a lot of difficult conversations, letting guys know that all the feelings that they have, anger, sadness, motivation, whatever it might be, they're all okay. So we're just trying to support each other. The university has been very upfront and available with providing any type of help or counseling that was needed. One of the things that we did to kind of help with this was about a week after Mac's accident, we had a huge Super Bowl party at my house, actually. And it was just a way for us to kind of maybe get away from the game, hopefully, just set this aside and enjoy some genuine time together as a team in a happy atmosphere, which we needed. We're doing some other things. We have some decal stickers that we'll be wearing on our helmets during the season. We will be wearing patches on all of our uniform tops this year, honoring Mac with the MM40 logo. And we will also have some signage up at the field recognizing Mac with the MM40 logo as well. Going beyond that, some of our guys have taken some personal ways to honor him. There's been a slew of tattoos that have been inked already, and probably some more to come. So it just goes to show the volume of impact that Mac had on everybody here.
Well, and speaking of everybody here, what a special night it was. Obviously, a very sad night, emotional night, but the Seton Hill community came together the night after the accident, a special mass here in Mac's honor. Talk a little bit about that, Maz, because I'm pretty sure everybody on the Seton Hill campus, including the coaches, were there.
It was overwhelming in many different ways. Just the attendance. It seemed like half of Penn Trafford was there, and expectedly so. We had other coaches from Seton Hill, regular students, student athletes, parents of our current players. And that was within less than 24 hours after the accident. To see just the support from the Penn Trafford and Seton Hill communities was not surprising, but very helpful, and I guess the grieving process. That was probably the most difficult night for our players. I could see the emotions were very, very high, and we experienced a lot of hugs and a lot of sadness that night. But it's part of the grieving process, and I think at the time it was difficult, but looking back, I think that was a very good thing for not only our players, but also for the Mon family.
Well, again, we want to send, again, our condolences, and when I'm sure the guys will be playing for Mac this year. I'm sure that's something that's been said a lot, hasn't it?
It is. The funeral was also very, it was packed, the church was packed, and the priest shared just an amazing sermon about Mac, and actually shared some excerpts from his application to Seton Hill. He had to write an essay to get into Seton Hill. And part of that essay, there was 2 lessons that were pulled out of that. Mac said that through the sport of baseball, he learned the lesson of to play with purpose. And it wasn't just a sport to him anymore. It meant a lot more, and there was a purpose behind everything he did. And I think that was driven for him to maybe be a professional player someday. And also, one of the things that Mac said in his application to Seton Hill is that he was going to give everything his all, whether it was academics or baseball or his relationships. And I think our guys have really adopted those 2 mottos to play with purpose and to give it your all.
Well, he certainly did that in the fall and did that last year for Penn Trafford. They played in their first ever WPIAL baseball championship game, and he was the starting pitcher. So we'll be talking a lot about Mac and thinking about him a lot throughout the season. But Maz, let's turn our attention to baseball. Last season, Seton Hill posted its 11th straight 30-win season, finishing 32-20 overall, 18-10 in the PSAC. The Griffins lost to Millersville in the first round of the PSAC tournament, 8-5, before reeling off 3 straight wins to stay alive in the tournament. But because of rain, the remainder of the tournament was canceled, and Kutztown was awarded the championship. Bloomsburg, not Kutztown. Bloomsburg was awarded the championship. What a weird way to end the season. I mean, when you think back on it, Maz, your team has not lost 2 games in a PSAC tournament since 2016 because you won the tournament in 17 and 18, and last year got cut short. Weird way to end the season last year.
I don't know. I think the only time we ended a season with a win was in 2008 when we weren't eligible for the postseason.
Right, because you just moved to the NCAA.
Right.
Yeah.
So every other postseason, unfortunately, we haven't won a national championship yet, but so we've ended every season with a loss, and being in a conference tournament, the last game we played was a win. It was so odd. And I felt bad for our seniors. You know, you need to have some closure, and I tell guys, like, you should cry when your last game's over, right? And we, didn't have any closure to it. So it was a frustrating season. I mean, you were down in Florida. We had a horrendous Florida trip, frustrating, and then the end of the season was frustrating. So it left a little bit of a bitter taste in our mouth. I think, not being able to advance past that conference tournament, or at the very least have a chance to defend our back-to-back championships. So there was a lot of hard lessons learned there for a lot of our guys, especially when it comes down to weather. You can't control it. But it was definitely an odd season, definitely an odd finish, but we are going to do our best to have total control over what our destiny is this year and which direction we go.
Yeah, unfortunately, the 9 straight NCAA tournament appearances couldn't quite get to 10. How do you put forward a better regular season this year, Maz, to ensure that you guys can at least get an at-large bid, if not a PSAC championship? Well,
I think there's 2 things that I think will help us ensure that. Number one is being more consistent. We were so up and down, especially on the mound last year. And then that carries into approaching every single game the same way. There were certainly some teams that we were better than and maybe should have beaten during the year last year. I think our intensity and our focus and our approach to each series depended on who we were playing, and that hurt us. I mean, we played an absolutely dominant series against Mercyhurst, who finished 4th in the country, and then we would go and not play so well against some lesser teams. So that's a lesson that we can draw out of last year, and I think that it should have a little bit more a mature approach for our players this year, knowing that every game should be treated the same.
Some great individual performances last year by guys like Andrew Chuba, who was healthy except at the end of the season. I know obviously he got that injury in the PSAC tournament, but man, was he so consistent. 373 batting average for Chubes last year. Parker Denny was excellent in the PSAC tournament. Of course, Tommy Pelles belted 11 home runs. Nick Stotler was a great addition for that one season, transferring from Lock Haven. Isaiah DeAndreth in his freshman year played a ton of games, actually had the most games played on the entire team last year and hit around 300. So some really good individual performances by some guys last year. And I know I'm missing some too, but those are just some that kind of off the top of my head.
Yeah, there's no question. And that's frustrating when you have some really good individual performances, yet the team doesn't experience the success. And again, I think that comes down to consistency. But the guys you mentioned did a fantastic job for us. There were some guys that stepped up on the mound as well. George Coyle had a breakout season. Jared Kolar provided some consistency. Marshall McGraw got his feet wet with a lot of experience on the mound. So some of those successes combined with some of our failures and the lessons learned will hopefully translate to some more success this year.
Well, in addition to those guys, some of those guys we say goodbye to as graduating seniors. Colton Carney, been here for a long time, got redshirted and was a kid that was a consistent player in the outfield for Seton Hill. Chris Law as well, he had another good season last year, did some big things while on the Hill. Mentioned Andrew Chuba, Nick Stotler, and of course Ryan Grieco transferring in after his freshman season. Played a lot of innings and had some big games in the PSAC tournament, those championship years for you, Maz. So what does that senior class kind of mean to you?
Well, they put an exclamation point on their legacies. Those guys carried us on the back half of the season. I don't know what it was, we must have won about 11 of our last 13 games, and I think all of those seniors last year, that's when they got hot. And that's really what leadership's about, being able to rely on your older guys when you need them the most down the stretch in the postseason. So proud of how they finished their career, but more so the impact that they had. The way we go out and play this year, you're going to see some resemblances of Nick Stotler's energy, Chris Law's toughness, Andrew Chuba's competitiveness. You're going to see that, and that means they really had a great impact on their teammates.
And I know Chubes was helping out a little bit coaching-wise, but I believe his job came calling, I guess.
Yeah, the life of a poor college student caught up with him. But Chubes was here in the fall and helped us out, work with our hitters a little bit, and then he landed a full-time position right now.
I'm sure he'll be following closely, though.
Yep,
that's
no doubt.
For sure. You also had, I guess, a bittersweet goodbye to Craig Lewis and also Kenny Wells. Craig was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles, and Kenny was signed by the Atlanta Braves. Those two were a huge reason why you guys won the PSAC tournament in 2017. I'll never forget Craig Lewis stealing home against Westchester. I talk about it all the time because I was screaming in the press box, and you said you heard me screaming and heard nothing else, and you were like, Dan, stop yelling. This is a secret right now. We've got to get the guy home first. So Craig steals home, and that was huge. And, of course, Kenny was the PSAC tournament MVP that year as a freshman. So, and the reason I say bittersweet, of course, because they did have another year. I think Craig actually had two more years. But you certainly want to see those guys play professional baseball. So we're so happy for them.
Yeah, bittersweet is a pretty accurate word. Man, to think about having those two guys back on the mound and in the lineup this year would be some nice added pieces. But for us to lose juniors to professional baseball is rare. I mean, it's a rare thing in general, but for a Division II school like us, it's a good thing. That means we're producing some really talented players that are able to play baseball for a living. We're so excited for those guys to have the opportunity to move on. And it's funny, in the last 2 weeks, I think Craig and Kenny have been to half of our practices here.
Wow.
So, they have moved on, but they know where their roots are. They miss being part of it, and they just love being back around our guys, working out and playing the game.
Well, another loss we can put in the bittersweet category is someone who really poured his heart into this baseball program for more than a decade as a player and a coach. And of course, I'm talking about DJ Cannon. He's now the head coach at Chatham University. Maz, his impact will last forever with this baseball program, won't it?
Yes. Yeah, no question. I'm actually very surprised and fortunate that he was here as long as he has been. I'm shocked that he hadn't landed a head coaching job years ago because he's certainly experienced and prepared for that. Really excited for DJ and his opportunity to build that program up at Chatham. We've been following and what they're doing down there, and we talked to DJ quite a bit, and he's already got things moving and shaking, and he's got their kids really excited to play. But we will certainly, and I find myself a lot of times looking back and say, oh yeah, DJ did this, DJ did that. So we're going to feel the positive impacts and effects of what he's done here on the Hill for many years to come, and certainly wish him luck at Chatham.
Yeah, we'll all be Chatham Cougar fans this year for sure. As long as DJ is there, we'll be following them a lot. And we wish you best of luck DJ. Let's talk a little bit about your coaching staff now, though, and talk about the man that's replacing Coach Cannon, Tim Cronin, who was previously the pitching coach at Heidelberg under former Seton Hill player Chad Fitzgerald. So, Maz, what attracted you to Coach Cronin, and kind of how has he adjusted to the new position here on the Hill?
Well, Sully and I were really worked on this whole hiring process together. Both Tyler and I interviewed all of our candidates, and at the end of the day, Tim's baseball knowledge was pretty elite, and we just kind of knew he was the right fit. We kind of looked at it as like, who's the guy that we think aligns best with our personality and our philosophies, and the guy that we want to lead our players with, who fits that best, and Tim stood out. And it's been unbelievable how smooth the transition has been. He's hit the ground running. He's not only adjusted to our culture here in a baseball program, but he's enhanced it. His organizational skills are fantastic, and he's a really good teacher of the game. Teacher of the game in terms of he gives our pitchers a lot of freedom within their own abilities, but has a really good structure in place to help them advance as players and develop. So I think our guys really enjoy being around him every day. He's making impacts for us in every aspect: recruiting, scouting, just player development. He's been really impactful. We've thrown a lot at him. We didn't really give him a whole lot of time to just come in here and get his feet wet and adjust. We put a lot on his plate, and he's done a fantastic job.
Well, as you mentioned, coaching elite for him, but he had to fit in. And I got a chance to meet him briefly when he was first hired, but I've gotten the chance to see him in the halls or at the basketball games where he and Sully helps out with the sports information department. And he is a great guy, man. He really, I can tell that he fit into the Seton Hill family immediately with his personality. Really good guy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the pitching staff will continue to come together under his leadership. And of course, you mentioned Sully returns for his second year as an assistant after playing here at Seton Hill for 3 years. He seems like a guy that's born to coach. Really lucky to have him, I'm sure you'd agree, Maz. And of course, longtime assistant coach Mike Kalk, who's been with you since almost the beginning. He's back as well this year.
Well, I don't know if anybody bleeds red and gold as much as Tyler Sullivan, man. He's all in. He absolutely loves our players, and you can tell by how much he invests in them every single day. He loves what he does. He loves our players. He loves Seton Hill. He loves the baseball program. And then he hates losing. And I think I love that about him. I think our players love that about him. He's done a great job developing a lot of our position players. I mean, you look at last year, we had a pretty new lineup, a brand new infield.
Right? Yeah.
And Sully he's our infield guy. Our fielding percentage was the highest it's been in a long time last year. The proof's kind of in the pudding, top offense in the PSAC and one of the top defending teams, and that's 100% because of the hard work that Sully puts in every single day. Coach Houck somehow was able to land a sabbatical for this semester. I don't know if people are supposed to know that, but now they do.
That's all right. We'll edit that part out.
So it's been really awesome having Coach Houck here a lot more frequently now, especially in the preseason. This is the busiest time of the year for us because it's the 6-day-a-week grind of getting ready for the spring. We have a lot of positional players, and we need a lot of batting practice throwers. And Coach Houck he's been here a lot more the last probably 6 weeks, and his contributions have been incredibly valuable. And just having him at practice on a regular basis throughout the spring is going to ultimately make our players better.
I don't know if there's a guy more excited about Florida than Coach Houck.
Yeah,
he's excited to get there, but of course we have a couple more weekends before we get there. Let's jump onto the field, Maz, and talk about this year's lineup and how things are piecing together for you offensively first. And we'll start at the catcher position, where you have some experienced starters coming back, and that seems to be invaluable at the catcher position. Of course, Austin Brandell, who's in his senior year, Adam Bankovich, a redshirt junior, and you also have redshirt freshman Tanner Freilich in the fold as well. And again, you just can't teach experience, and to have those guys coming back at such an important position has to be, again, a very valuable thing for you this year.
Yeah, you kind of look at the catching position as sort of like the quarterback on the field. And it's very comforting to know that we're going to have two experienced seniors back there, guys that have played in lots of postseason games, played in the NCAA tournament, and they're just very knowledgeable guys in terms of how we like to pitch and play defense. So Bankovic and Brandel will see a lot of time back there, and as you mentioned, Tanner Freilich will too. Tanner was basically redshirted because of an injury last year. He's 100%, and he was arguably one of our best players in the fall. He was so consistent. He's so strong. I think that year of redshirting helped him out tremendously. We want to make sure we keep him healthy because I think he can help our team both as a DH, catcher, and maybe even some first base. And then we have some good depth behind those guys with Vinny Mastrangelo, who's a pretty talented freshman. And then Jared Matty is a guy that gives us some more depth and experienced as a guy coming back as a sophomore for us. So that is a position this year that we have some depth, we have some talent, we have some leadership.
Well, I'm glad to see Tanner back healthy. He helped us out a little bit with our broadcast last year as a freshman, and we saw him a lot during AAU games. He helped out at Seton Hill run things. So I'm glad to see Tanner healthy, and hopefully he'll be a big contributor this year. Among the infielders this year for Seton Hill, aside from, of course, the catching position, of course, the guy coming back that we're going to be talking to here in a little while, Tommy Pelles, had an incredible year last year. 348 batting average, 11 home runs, 45 RBIs. Struggled a little bit at the end of the year, but hit a gigantic home run against Gannon in the PSAC tournament. What do you expect from him at third base this season in his senior year, Matt?
I expect a lot more consistency. Tommy had a great season last year, but if you really look at it, it was sort of a tale of two seasons, where his first half was incredible, like All-American caliber performance, and then it kind of tapered off. His first 2 years at Penn, he hadn't gone through a full entire season where he's playing every day, and last year he did. It might have caught up to him a little bit physically. He's added about 10 pounds, maybe 15 pounds this year for the sole purpose of making sure he's really, really good from start to finish. I think he's proud of how he played last year, but has a little bit of regrets about just being more consistent throughout the season. He's locked in right now. Knock on wood, I hope that continues, but he's playing more physical, he's much more confident, and you could just tell how excited he is to get out on the field and have a great senior year for us.
And he did seem to get better defensively as the season went on, even maybe when his offense tailed off a little bit. Of course, he was an outfielder at Penn, and he had to kind of learn the third base position after playing shortstop at Greensburg Central Catholic. So have you noticed him defensively getting better as well?
Yes. Yeah, he looks much more comfortable. And I think much more confident in the plays that he can make. I think last year he was just hesitant because he didn't see enough baseballs at third base. Like, can I make this play or can't I? Now he has a little bit more aggressiveness where he's going after everything.
Other infielders returning this season for Seton Hill, we mentioned earlier, Isaiah DeAndreth had a really good freshman year, hit 296, led the team in at-bats. Redshirt junior Parker Denny had a huge PSAC tournament, 8 hits in 4 games in the tournament. Of course, senior Kalen Grimm, Maz, one of your unquestioned leaders coming back. Junior Jamie Rabel, redshirt sophomore Bailey Jamanis, among others. So how do you kind of see the infield coming together right now with those guys?
Well, you mentioned Grimm about being a great leader, and I think his leadership and energy are so contagious, and a lot of people follow his lead on and off the field. So he's a guy that I think gets in the lineup because of his consistency as a defender. I think ideally Kalen's a really good shortstop and may see most of the innings there, which means Isaiah would probably bump over to second base, which is probably his more natural position. He did a great job at shortstop last year, but he may be even better at second base. Behind those guys, like you mentioned, we have some experienced depth in Jamie Rabel, who can really play anywhere in the infield. And Bailey Jamanis is a guy that's probably going to see his opportunities come about because of his bat. And he's shown to be a pretty good hitter in certain situations for us in the past. Behind Rabel and Jamanis, Colin Lohman is a guy that's kind of been injured on and off, but he also has a capability to play third, short, or second. So he provides some more versatility. We have some sleepers in that group, and I don't want to give away any secrets, but Owen Sable may have been our MVP in the fall.
Wow.
I mean, he was such an incredible surprise. He did not play like a freshman. He's been awesome so far. The thing about Owen is he just shows up every day, and he's a rock solid, consistent player. And we're excited about trying to find some opportunities for him, whether it be at shortstop, second base. And then all the local people know Jack Oberdorf and how fantastic of a baseball player he is. I think, Jack has the skills to be an everyday third baseman for us. It's tough with Pelles in front of him.
Right.
But I think Jack's capable of stepping in and playing at our level right away. It's just a matter of finding some opportunities for him. So, we're excited about that infield group. It's got a combination of some good bats, some good defenders, and some returning experience.
And in terms of at first base, Maz, who's kind of in the mix there?
Well, Parker Denny, made that adjustment pretty good last year, especially the second half of the season. His defense and just comfort and his leadership at first base got better and better the more he played there. And I think that's probably where he fits in for us, although he could play the outfield, DH. He's such a good athlete. He could do many things. But I think in a 50-game season, you're going to see Parker out at first base most of the time. Danny Williams, we don't have many left-handed hitters on our team, maybe only 3. And Danny Williams has probably been our best left-handed bat over the course of the last month or two. So he provides a really good option as another first baseman or a pinch hitter, matchup type guy. And then, the return of Tyler Peterson, we're really just starting to work Tyler back into the catching position because that's where he started a couple of years ago. But on days where we got to go a little bit easier on his arm, we're trying to give him a lot of experience at first base as well, so that in the future he can do both for us.
Outfield-wise, you guys took a really much bigger hit than I guess in the infield. You lose Colton Carney. I know Nick Stotler played outfield and first base for you, but if you list him as an outfielder, Ryan Grieco lost to graduation. Again, Craig Lewis was drafted. But you guys have some returners there, including, or I shouldn't say not including, but a new face this year, a D1 transfer in Derek Orndorff from Penn State. So let's kind of start right there if we could, Maz. Derek comes to Seton Hill. Where do you see him sliding in this season, and what brought him to the Hill?
Well, first of all, his role on our team, he's an elite defender. He runs very well. He's 6'5", 6'6" runner, so he covers a lot of ground in center field. But he's really long, too. Gets great jumps on the baseball, takes away hits in the gaps. And I think for him, that being his best attribute in the middle of the field, we're really thinking that he's our best center fielder, at least to start the season. But he's also unproven at the plate, didn't get a whole lot of offensive opportunities at Penn State, so we have to kind of figure out offensively where he fits in. But he's been a great addition. He's a guy that we recruited out of Connellsville High School, had an opportunity to go to Penn State. After 2 years, just decided he wanted something different, maybe a better fit. And Derek, just like all of these other transfers we brought in, knock on wood, we got so lucky because they're a great fit. I don't know how impactful they'll be in wins and losses and statistics, but off the field, we couldn't ask for anything better. And you get a little bit nervous with Division I transfers, thinking there may be some expectations for them. There's, Penn State to Seton Hill's a little different campus,
Sure.
But you would never know it.
Yeah.
We have a Pitt transfer in Peyton Reisman. Those guys have settled in like they've been here for 4 years. So
Just like Stotler, just like Pelles.
Very much so. Yeah,
those
so
guys fit in well too.
Yeah, so we've gotten lucky. They're great kids, and we hope that they'll contribute on the field for us. The rest of the outfield.
Well, can I talk about Carl Turner coming back?
Carl Turner.
Carl is back at Seton Hill. He played here for 2 years, transferred to a school in California, right? And then he's back for his senior season. Nice to see Carl back, especially when you lose so much experience in the outfield.
Yeah, that's a good point that I wanted to mention. When you look at Craig Lewis, Colton Carney, Andrew Chuba,
Chuba out there
Grieco, those guys were pretty elite. There wasn't a whole lot of balls falling when those guys were in the outfield. But we feel like we have a really athletic group. We've had a chance to watch Carl play defense, and that's fun to watch. So having him back, he brings a really positive energy to the team, and he gives us some depth in an area that we lost a lot. So we're happy to have Carl back.
Junior Jordan Fedor, sophomore Brandon Klein are also back in the outfield for you, Maz. Fedor played certainly a share of innings in his career so far, and Klein really had a nice stretch last season as a freshman.
Yeah, it's when you lose the outfield group that we lost, yet still bring back a lot of guys with experience, we're pretty fortunate. It was good that Klein got his feet wet last year, had some big hits and big moments. Jordan Fedor has played in a lot of big games over his first 2 seasons. And then Having Tyler Zaleski back is a real, hopefully, a big boost for
Got
us.
off to a great start for you last year.
He really did. I mean, he started in left field for a reason last year because we thought, like, this guy's going to really contribute and have an impact on our offense, and he was until he got injured. So he has some experience, especially at a really good JUCO, Orndorff, a Division I guy. So we're excited about the outfield. We think there's a lot of talent and depth out there. It's just a matter of those guys sort of just playing a lot with each other and getting used to each other. We have some younger guys too that we might not see a whole lot of them on the varsity level, but Frank Montecalvo, Luke Whalen, and Hemphill guy Luke Hudson, those guys will get a ton of action on our JV. And I think they're doing a really good job pushing some of those older guys and learning from some of those older guys right now.
Certainly a great thing to have options and depth, that's for sure.
We have one other guy in the outfit I forgot to mention is Jaden Starks. He was a guy that he's kind of gone through some injuries too, but he's really similar to Derek Orndorff in terms of speed, 6'5" runner in the outfield. I don't know if he's ready to step in and play for us right away, but we'll have a lot of options for him on the JV, and he's an exciting player to watch too.
Now, in terms of JV, I know you play some games in Florida. What, two JV games in Florida?
Yes.
Is that where we're at? In terms of when we're back home, what's the JV schedule like? Do you have some games?
Yeah, it's a lot bigger than years past. We have, I think, a home and home against Potomac State. We play Mercyhurst Northeast Junior College, W&J. I think some of the CCACs we're playing, Marietta. So it's a little bit bigger JV schedule than we had in the past.
Well, let's talk about the pitching staff now that we've moved on from the offense. You guys have a number of pitchers that logged a lot of innings last year, Maz, including Jared Kolar, who comes back this year, Ben Vicini. You mentioned George Coyle a little earlier, Marshall McGraw, you talked about him, Christian Silhorst, Nick Bain, Neil McDermott. How do you see that group kind of shaping up right now, at least in terms of the returners coming back?
Not really sure. I think we have a good idea about our rotation, or at least candidates for the rotation. And then our bullpen is a lot deeper this year for a reason, because it wasn't very deep last year, and we said we got to get some more arms. We just didn't have enough pitching last year. So McGraw, Coyle, Kolar, Bain, they're all guys that I think for most of the second half, that was our rotation. And I think we'll probably open the season the same way with those four guys. Caden Wood was pretty good last year, and he's even better this year, I think. And the same with Ben Vicini. Ben saw his innings and his role increase as the season went on. I think Vicini and Caden Wood will kind of have the same role, but maybe even bigger this year. Neil McDermott's another returning guy, as is Brian Dabney. Those two guys will pitch out of the bullpen in similar roles that they did last year. And then two kind of aces in the hole that we're crossing our fingers with are Pat Monteverdi and Mike Bria. If those guys get back healthy, which they're on track to do so, and maybe even return close to the form they were a couple of years ago, you're talking about our basically 1 and 2. And that'll be a really nice shot in the arm or pick up to our pitching staff a couple weeks into the season. Well,
yeah, I was just about to mention those guys. Of course, Pat was just had a tremendous sophomore season. He had a 2.92 ERA. This was 2 years ago, and a 6-2 record. Pitched outstanding. All those guys did in the NCAA tournament and the PSAC tournament. And then Pat, unfortunately, in his third game of the year last year, suffers an elbow injury. Ended up getting Tommy John surgery, so basically missed all of last year. And of course, Mike wasn't really healthy much of last year at all, even though he gutted it out in the PSAC tournament, which I thought was awesome. The fact that he said, I'm just going to go out there, lay it all on the line, I know how important this game is, and you guys ended up winning that game. But I know you just touched on him, Maz, but where are they kind of at with their rehab, and when can we expect them this year?
Well, I think Pat Monteverdi's probably a little bit closer than Bria. They've both been on a mound. They've both been throwing bullpens, have not faced live hitters yet. Okay. It's hard to put a timetable on it. It's really just, I don't want to say day to day, but outing to outing. There's been no setbacks in either of their progressions back. But I would say in an ideal world, they might get their feet wet in Florida. And by the time PSAC play comes around, I think they'll be much more usable. Now, they're probably not going to go out and give us 5 to 7 innings, but you know, a 1 to 2 or 3 innings from each one of those guys over a 4-game weekend conference series is pretty valuable.
Sure. Now, we talked about guys fitting in Division I transfers, and the one guy that I want to mention is Omar Ward, a local guy out of Kiski Prep. He went to Derry. How much do you expect him to contribute this year? How is he? I'm sure he's fit in well. I know he has a big personality too. And do we expect to see him on the mound only, or is he going to swing the bat a little bit?
Well, unfortunately, he had an injury. He pulled his hamstring, which he's making his way back from that, but he has a shoulder injury.
Okay.
Something that I think had started to nag him a little bit in the fall, and it turned out to be a little bit bigger than what we originally thought it was. He threw a little bit for us in the fall and was low 90s, which was exciting to see. And then we let him hit, and he had a couple home runs in inter-squad games, and it was intriguing. I mean, as you know, he's a tremendous athlete, and I think for us, it's just a matter of figuring out where can we take that athleticism and use it to best benefit the team on the field. So with him, you know, and his arm injury, it may be maybe more as a position player in the future, but that's kind of to be determined.
Anybody else you expect to contribute on the mound? I know, again, there's a lot of guys that got their feet wet last year, so you have to be pretty happy with, I guess, the bullpen when you got to go to it, right, this year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one guy that's sort of like a little bit of an unsung hero for us is Corey Storm. He's a guy that took on a role he really wasn't prepped for last year as a relief pitcher, and I think he only gave up a couple of hits the whole season and maybe like 7 or 8 appearances. So he's just a competitor that is really reliable for us, and he's used to being in, you know, big game situations. So he could be a decent bullpen piece for us. And then the rest of them is a lot of new faces. One of the guys we were excited about, Jack Laird, very promising freshman out of Ohio, unfortunately incurred an arm injury. We're still trying to figure that out. If he's not ready for this year, he's going to be a big-time candidate to be in our starting rotation throughout the rest of his career. A Division I transfer guy, Peyton Reisman from Pitt, 6'7". Well, I have to say 6'7", or else you get mad.
Give that extra inch.
A big, tall left-hander. Peyton was also coming off of arm surgery at Pitt, so we weren't really sure what we were going to get out of him. And since the fall, he has made a great progression. He's been velocity's climbing. His stuff is getting sharper and sharper. So having a big, experienced left-handed arm coming out of the bullpen is awesome for us. Similar to Peyton, when we're talking about big left-handed arms, Kevin Voppel is a kid who kind of came in here as a two-way, and we just see his stock continue to rise on the mound, so he's kind of shifted into just a pitcher, but he's a mid-80s lefty with a really good breaking ball. Had some big-time experience and success in high school and competes really well, so having another left-handed arm out of the pen and Kevin is good for us. And then we have a bunch of right-handed pitchers that I think can do both as starters and relievers for us, maybe midweek starters or non-conference starters and then relieve on the weekends. Peyton Ferris is a transfer from Wheeling Jesuit, another 6'6" guy. We got some tall dudes on the staff this year, but he's a strike.
Any interviews I do this year, I'll be looking tall, unfortunately. Have to give me a box to stand on.
So Peyton Ferris, he'll be a good righty out of the pen for us this year, as is Nash Bryan. He's another Wheeling Jesuit transfer from Butler originally. He's a mid-80s guy with really good stuff. Dylan Bonzo is a junior college transfer, so he's coming in here having some really good experience pitching out west in the JUCO level. He was a great strike thrower for us all fall, so he certainly fills a role.
Yeah.
And then we have a couple of younger guys. Spencer Kern got his feet wet last year. He's getting better. He'll be somewhere in the middle of that bullpen for us. And then we have another freshman, Ashton Wetzler, a really successful pitcher out of Bellefonte. He may redshirt. We're just not sure how many innings will be available for him. But like Laird, he's a freshman. We're really excited about having a big role in the future.
Well, I ask you this question every year, and maybe you kind of mentioned his name already. Any one player who really had a great fall, a young guy that maybe just kind of came out of nowhere? I know you mentioned Owen Sable had a really good fall. Anybody else that really like? Yeah,
to be honest with you, it kills me to say this, but Mac.
Yeah,
he was he was really, really good in the fall. I think against Lackawanna, he faced 3 hitters through 9 strikes, and nobody even sniffed him. So, but he made a real big statement in the fall. But yeah, I think Sable was kind of one of the guys that definitely stood out in terms of like a new guy that made a big impact. On the pitching side, I mentioned McLain. Other guys that I thought really stepped up and performed well. Caden Wood, he's a guy, he was mainly a position player most of his high school career. So considering that we thrust him into the bullpen last year and that he's only really focused on pitching for maybe a year, I think he's really made some progress.
Nice to hear for sure. Let's talk about the schedule. You guys start this season at Coker this weekend, and then next weekend, February 22nd, the Griffins play in the Thomasville, North Carolina tournament against Malone and Walsh before heading to Florida. And Maz, I thought this was the case, but I was kind of looking back just to double check. The season for you guys starts a week earlier than usual this year. What was the reasoning behind that?
To get the hell out of the gym
and
go play.
And that's it.
Yeah, I do all the scheduling, and I'm kind of conflicted every year with saying like, oh geez, February 15th, that's so early, we're going to need more time. And then every year when it gets to February 15th, you say, I wish we were playing.
So, sure.
And I felt like we have so much depth on the mound that we need to get out and play and see those guys, see what they can do. So.
Well, the Florida trip also a little bit different this year. Seton Hill will play 3 times at the Lake Myrtle Complex in Auburndale, where we've been playing for a long time. But this year, the Griffins will also play at Polk State College, at Embry-Riddle in Daytona Beach, and at Sanford Stadium in Sanford, Florida. And we also will play at Tampa like we do every year. But what went into kind of changing things around in Florida this year?
Some of that was out of our control. We sign up for the tournament, and you kind of get whatever opponents they give you at whatever sites they give you. They did ask if we'd be willing to travel around, and you've been going to Florida for a long time, and it's a great trip. But I like seeing different places, and we've gotten some games this year at some really cool stadiums, which I'm excited about. So. Instead of driving a half hour, some of our games might be about 45 minutes, but to go to different venues, I think it'll be a great experience for the kids. And yes, we're going down to win, but at the end of the day, that's a great experience. We want our players to have a great baseball experience.
Well, and that's something I wanted to touch on too, because there aren't many, I don't know if people realize this, there aren't many PSAC schools that go to Florida. I mean, if you come to Seton Hill, you're not just here to play baseball and win games, which is very important, but you're here for the entire experience. I mean, you guys play a full schedule, 50 games almost every year, unless the rain wreaks havoc, but you guys have done a great job at that. So you're gonna play a lot of games, you're gonna get to go to Florida, experience that, and then you're gonna get to compete for a PSAC championship, NCAA tournament, and national championship. So I think that's really important, the experience, the overall experience that kids get when they come to Seton Hill. It's so important, and I can tell you firsthand, because I've been going on this Florida trip now, I think for 5 or 6 years. It's really an amazing trip. I mean, you certainly want to win games, but you have a day off where the parents cook dinner and all the players get to go over and just have a great time. And when you're not playing, I mean, the guys get to hang out together. I mean, it really is a special time in Florida. Now, we do want to get a few more dubs this year. I know, great start last year to Florida, and then it kind of fell apart after that. But just the entire experience, Maz, I just want to stress that from someone that is part of you guys but not there every day with you, just observing that's something that I think people need to know about, because it really is a great experience.
Are you been listening to our recruiting talks?
I have been. Yeah, I've been involved. You want to bring me along for some visits?
That was it right there. That's a
just
sales
replay that, buddy. But no, I really mean it though, because I've been I think about that every year when we get ready to go to Florida. Just how cool of an experience it is for the players, because again, there isn't, I know Westchester goes, I believe Slippery Rock. We don't need to go through all the schools that go. And you play some schools there too in the past from the PSAC. But you're one of few, and I think that's important for the kids, because it's a great experience.
It is. I mean, baseball's a vehicle, right, to get an education, number one, and to have a great college experience and go places, travel. A lot of our guys go away in the summer and play summer baseball, and they get to meet people and play in different venues and states. And I just think it's awesome. You're only 18 to 22 years old for 4 years in your life, and you got to make the most of it. And we're trying to help them see that what's out there, And yes, it's a Division II baseball program, but we want to give them a Division I experience all the way around.
You've definitely been doing that. Maz, how do you see the PSAC West and East stacking up this year?
Well, I think the East is I think both divisions will be very good, but that East is going to be a dogfight. I think when you look at Millersville, they lost their starting rotation, but there's more horses in the stable, and they bring back a lot of their offense. They're going to be a top-notch team. Westchester is Westchester, and they're going to be competing at an extremely high level every year. East Stroudsburg is maybe a sleeper over there, where they bring back a lot of high-level players and pitchers. They've been top 25 choice in some polls. And then you got Shepherd coming into that conference as well,
how about
which
that?
Doesn't make it any easier for any of us.
No.
And then, we fail to, sometimes we forget the defending champion in Bloomsburg. I mean, they won it for a reason, and they have some good guys coming back. So it'll be interesting on that side. When you look at the PSAC West, I kind of see the entire Western Division raising up a little bit. I think Mercyhurst and Millersville are similar, where they lost their whole rotation, but there's a lot of good arms behind them. And, Mercyhurst brought in some transfers and some other guys to stay pretty competitive. Gannon, you can't discredit what they did last year, and they did it with some high-level guys that'll be back, both pitching and position players. So I would anticipate them coming off a good year to have a lot of momentum. A sleeper in the West is probably Pitt Johnstown. They have arguably the best starting rotation in the entire PSAC, and if you got pitching, you got a chance. So they're going to be a really dangerous opponent. I know Slippery Rock has sort of been up and down, but I know they got some transfers, and they have some returning position players that are pretty good. And Cal is, I think we're really good this year, but Cal's really good too. They were young, and they won 37 games being young. So there's a lot to be said and a lot to be scared of when teams look at what Cal brings back this year. So each and every year, I think there's some ebb and flow to the conference, where it's better some years than others. And I think you can see that in the number of draft picks each year. Some years it's 8 to 10 kids. Some years it's 5 to 6. But I think this year it's going to be a higher level across the board in the PSAC.
You mentioned Cal. I want to give a quick shout out to Mike Connie. I know you guys are close. I had a chance to talk with him at a football game last year when Seton Hill was playing at Cal U, and he said how much he enjoyed our broadcasts. So I got to give him a little. Is that all right if we give him a little
Absolutely.
plug? I hope you guys sweep Cal, but I got to give Coach Connie a little plug because he does a great job at it.
He does, and with what our team went through, the tragedy with Mac, he was the first guy to call me.
Yeah.
I think within 3 days of Mac's accident, we had a sympathy card signed by every kid on the team at Cal. That's a pretty class act by a really good coach.
Yeah. We talked earlier about the PSAC tournament ending in a strange way last year for you guys, but this year some things are changing with the format. Or is that next year? Is it changing this year, or is it going to be changing next year?
I think it's this year, yeah.
Okay. Well, we know for sure that they moved the tournament to Slippery Rock.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I kind of don't like it because we were really, really good at Point Stadium.
I should have known your thoughts on it.
We're like 11-1 in the last 3 years in conference tournament games at Point Stadium, and man, our guys really swing it well. But at that point in the season, I'm thinking that we should be clicking on all cylinders that we can go out and play good baseball in any venue. Mm-hmm. The format, if I remember correctly, is day one will be single elimination, which makes the stakes a little bit higher. But at the same time, every team's got a number one, so everybody has a chance to advance. There could be some upsets there, though. A 4 over a 1 has a bigger impact in the overall tournament than if it's double elimination. So we'll see how that affects things.
It's interesting to note too, Maz, that if the regular season doesn't go as well for a team, they have a chance in the PSAC tournament to win some games and maybe improve their at-large standing. But if they lose that first game, it's over. Probably for that team. So I think. That's interesting.
On the flip side of that, with the tournament being set up the way it is, when you look at a team like Cal, who went, I believe, 2-2 in the PSAC tournament last year, most people say they actually hurt their chances of getting in.
Right.
Had they just gone 0-1, it may not have hurt them as bad as going 2-2. So
interesting.
You never know.
Yep. Highest grade point average in the PSAC, Mass, for the 5th straight season for your team. That's tremendous. You guys were also named ABCA Team Academic Excellence Award winner. So again, when we talk about the experience, that is a huge part of it too, the academic side, and the stats don't lie for you guys on that side of things.
A 3.50.
Wow.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know if like rankings and GPA exist across Division II baseball, but I'd love to see them because I got to think that we're pretty high up there. That is a testament to our leaders, the older guys on our team. They really impress upon our younger guys how important it is and how much pride we take in being the best team academically in the conference.
Well, I think that'll about wrap it up. I feel like we moved briskly this year. I don't know. We got everything in. We talked about everything, and
yeah,
we're ready to go.
It flowed.
It did. I like that. You can tune in to the entire Griffins Florida trip on the Westmoreland Sports Network. We'll also have all home conference games and all playoff games broadcast live, and many of those home conference games will be broadcast on video. We'll see. We were able to do a lot, as many of you know. We were able to do a lot of conference games last year at the Point on video. We'll see what happens at Slippery Rock this year. Hopefully we can do the same thing. But we're really excited for home games this year, Maz, because we have a press box this year. Very excited about that. I've always said I love being outside. I don't mind it at all. Like, we're in Florida and stuff. That's great. But the problem is, as many know, in Western Pennsylvania, when you play spring baseball, until maybe like the last conference, doubleheader of the season, it's like 35 degrees. At least it feels that way. So it's nice to have a press box, but it looks beautiful. It really sets off the entire ballpark. Again, we talk about the experience. The ballpark looks just absolutely gorgeous now with the addition of the press box. I know you guys are still adding some things to the press box, putting some letters on the front of it. And I think we gave a shout out last year to the alumni for helping fund, building the press box. But we're very excited about it. Dave Oliverio is helping us out with the preview show. Jason Green, those guys are excited to stay a little warmer than usual too. So.
Yeah, when it comes to our facility, there's kind of two approaches to it. One, we want to give a great facility for our players to play in. We want them to really love going to the ballpark every day and having a lot of pride in that being their home field, And then the other aspect of it is we want to give the alumni a place to come back to and be proud of as well, and know that they had a hand both financially and just being players here, building the reputation of the program. They had a hand in making that ballpark what it is. So we want to make it awesome for the kids now, awesome for the kids in the future, and awesome for the alumni that have been here, and awesome for our broadcast team as well. So we'll keep you dry.
At least.
You'll be dry and warm this year.
I love it. I love to hear it. And again, we'll have all the broadcasts you can watch and listen on the Westmoreland Sports Network. We're not quite done yet. We're going to bring in Tommy Pelles next. We're going to talk with Tommy about this season and everything that we can expect from Tommy in this offense, and just his viewpoint on the 2020 Griffins. Maz, I can't wait to work with you. Good luck this weekend, the next weekend, and then we'll be together in Florida, and let's go in with a lot of momentum, all right?
Yep, sounds great. Dan, thank you for everything you do for us.
Appreciate it, buddy. That is Coach Mark Marizaldi, the only head coach in Seton Hill baseball program history, getting set to enter his 17th season. He usually comes in with a big beard. It's a little less right now, though.
A little less, too much white, so we kept it a little bit shorter
right.
this year.
I'm there too, man. I think I used to make fun of you with a white beard. Now I'm getting there too. We all are. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and then we will talk with Tommy Pelles right after this on the Seton Hill University baseball season preview show right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network.
When choosing a college, I wanted a school that moved me forward. At Seton Hill University, I'm a part of a welcoming community that celebrates a long history of preparing students to transform the world. With small class sizes, an award-winning career center, and easy access to scholarships and aid, Seton Hill gives me the confidence, skills, and opportunities to take my future into my own hands. Are you ready to move forward?
Got something
Pelles
up.
drills one deep to center field. That ball is out of here.
That's a huge swing of the bat right there by Pelles.
Tommy P.
Welcome back to the 2020 Seton Hill University Baseball Season Preview Show. We talk with Coach Maz, and now we welcome in senior third baseman Tommy Pelles out of Greensburg Central Catholic High School. Tommy transferred into Seton Hill from Penn prior to last season. Last year, he was named first-team All-PSAC West selection, batting .348 with 11 home runs and 45 RBIs. Tommy, thanks for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule.
Thanks for having me here.
You guys got to be very excited to be starting the season this weekend. Just kind of tell me about how excited the team is to finally, you guys, I guess, have gotten outside a decent amount compared to last year's, but to be able to actually play in a game, I'm sure you guys can't wait to get going.
Yeah, this is something we've talked about with the way the baseball schedule is structured, where we have the whole fall season, and it just seems like a really long time since we were last competing. So everyone's really looking forward to it, and being able to get outside has been nice, and hopefully we're as ready as we can be. We feel like we are.
Talk a little about last season for you. First, personally, I want to talk about team-wise, but you had a tremendous year. I know you struggled a little bit going into the PSAC tournament, but you had that gigantic pinch hit home run against Gannon. So how would you kind of summarize your season last year?
Yeah, looking back, just very happy with a lot of the success that I personally had, and thinking back to those times, I really just simplified things. Made my job easier than not making it more than it is. Just being on time for the right pitches, being aggressive to the right pitches, and really focusing on the situation and what the team needed me to do in any given situation.
And Maz mentioned that you put on some weight in the offseason.
I did.
Tell us a little bit about your strategy there and kind of how you were able to put on a little bit more weight and why you decided to do that.
We had a couple talks, me and Coach Maz and the other coaches, and we just decided that it might be beneficial for me to try to put some weight on, because during last season I actually progressively lost some weight, and that's something I've pretty much always experienced. It's just tough to keep up with that, so I feel like physically I'm in a better position now to handle the grind of the season than if I didn't put on the weight.
Sure. And looking forward to seeing how that's gonna play this year. I'm sure for you. Talk about the way as a team last season ended. I just talked with Maz about it. I mean, what were the emotions like for the guys, especially the seniors? Because it's a double elimination tournament. You guys lost one time. You started to get on a roll. You played really good baseball. You had won 3 in a row, and you were playing Westchester. I believe you were winning that game, and then the rains came, and then that game got canceled, and they just wiped out the rest of the tournament. It had to just be a weird feeling to end the season like that.
Absolutely. That was definitely unlike anything I've ever experienced. And to your point about the seniors last year, that was probably heartbreaking. But looking back, we could have put ourselves in a better position going into that tournament. And it's a shame it ended the way it did, but we're going to learn from that this year and try to put ourselves in a much better position going into playoffs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you next. I mean, you see a situation like that, and was it fair? No, it wasn't. But again, as you just mentioned, you guys could have put yourself in a better position to have your season keep going. So is that something that you're going to maybe continue to have in the back of your head this year? Like, let's not let that happen to us again.
Yep, for sure. We really just had this conversation the other day. Finishing 4th in the conference isn't the recipe for success that we want to keep trying to follow. So once the conference games start, we're really going to try to take advantage of those and capitalize on opportunities when they come our way.
32 wins, another good season for your team, but as we just mentioned, not where you wanted to be at the end. So what do you guys have to do to have a better regular season to position yourself a little better this year, do you think?
Something we've been working on training mentally is focusing on the process, and specifically for baseball, that the process is pretty much everything you do on a daily basis, and really just trying to take advantage of all the little opportunities you have, because at the end of the day, there's not much that you can control in the game of baseball in terms of wins and losses and whatnot, but we can put ourselves in a spot where we feel really prepared, and we're going after every day trying to win each day, as we say.
Tell us about where you played over the summer and kind of what that experience was like. Was it anything different than what you experienced before?
Yeah, I played for the Albany Dutchmen in the Perfect Game League, and I had a great experience there. Lived with a host family, the Moonies. They took really good care of me. The coaching staff took really good care of me. The playing schedule was nice. I feel like I got more comfortable with the bats. Just overall, I had a great experience.
Is it tough to get adjusted to it all, playing summer baseball, having to live with a host family? I know you've been through it before, but is that something that you maybe talk to the young guys about that might be getting into their first summer being away from home, to kind of tell them what to expect?
Yeah, it's definitely different. Nothing to be scared of or anything to be hesitant to go and do, but it definitely takes an adjusting period.
Being a senior leader on this team, what type of expectations do you have for this season for the team?
I think that you'll see a team that's just really going out there and trying to be ultimate competitors. And I think that if we stick with that, then all of our goals that we have in mind are going to be attainable.
How about personally, what type of goals have you set for yourself? And I'm sure it's hard not to think about, hopefully, this is your senior year, about being drafted in June too.
Yeah, personal goals, to be honest with you, I haven't gotten any statistical ones yet. I really just been focusing on trying to get the best out of myself. And for the most part of my baseball career, that's sort of been what's been driving me to become the best player I can be, is just pushing my limits. And I'm going to try to do that again this year and hopefully get some good results to come from it.
And I talked to Maz about defensively. You coming from Penn, you played outfield there, and I know you played shortstop for Greensburg Central Catholic, but how difficult was it to adjust to third base, and how much better do you feel right now than you did at this point last year?
Well, defensively, I've always sort of just relied on my athleticism, and that's sort of why I was able to play outfield at Penn, but making the transition back to third base last year was pretty tough, and it took a lot of reps and a lot of drills with footwork specifically, but right now I do feel much more comfortable than I did last year, and I do feel like I'm in a really good spot to help the team at third base this year.
Yeah, how do you feel the infield is kind of coming together right now? I mean, you guys return a lot of guys in the infield, where last year was kind of like a new infield. You have to feel that even though your fielding percentage as a team was pretty good last year, you have to feel that you have a capability of doing even better this year, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's another thing we're going to push ourselves towards. We've talked about sort of stats that directly impact our wins and losses, and fielding percentage is a big part of that. And returning a lot of guys, having a lot of depth, that's going to play to our strength for sure. And yeah, we're just going to keep working hard at it, and hopefully we can top what we did last year.
When you look at the schedule, any games, or I know everyone's looking forward to starting this weekend and of course the Florida trip and stuff, but any games you're specifically like circling on the calendar that you're excited about?
Yeah, this week for sure, just because of the wait, and then looking ahead towards the end of the season, the dates of the conference tournament and the last few weekends of conference play for sure are going to stick out to me, because that's whenever it's really going to matter how conditioned we are for the season and what kind of toughness we've showed. And yeah, we're just really going to find out what we're made of going after our postseason goals there at that time of year.
What made you choose Seton Hill, Tommy, when you transferred here? I know Maz was recruiting you out of high school. And what do you think about that decision now at your senior year?
Yeah, that was a very difficult decision. First of all, deciding the transfer, and then getting the opportunity to come and play here at Seton Hill. But I just spent so much time thinking about it, praying about it, having conversations with people whose opinions I really trust, conversations with Coach Maz, and I couldn't be more grateful for the second chance opportunity that I was given, and I couldn't be more pleased with the decision I made to come here.
Well, I know when I found out you were coming here after watching you play at GCC, calling a number of your games, I was really excited that you'd be joining the Seton Hill family, and you've just been great. And in terms of guys coming in as transfers, it seems like everyone fits in so perfectly. I mean, I'm sure you were welcomed as soon as you came here.
Yeah, that's something that I forgot to mention in that last question. I was welcomed with open arms by the whole team, and that's probably something you don't see everywhere. I'm sure it isn't, but just a testament to the kind of guys, the group of guys we have on this team, and yeah, also speaks to the culture and what we're trying to do here.
Is there anything that sticks out to you about this year's team specifically, like in terms of competitiveness or how close together this team is? Anything that sticks out to you?
I think all those factors you just mentioned have definitely become pretty visible from my standpoint being on the team. I feel like all the guys are close. All the guys are really pushing each other to be better competitors, more toughness physically and mentally. And yeah, I hope that continues and we can utilize that to, get where we want to be.
Tommy, you guys have been through a lot the last few weeks with the loss of your teammate and your brother, McLain Mond. Being a senior on this team and a leader, what were the last several weeks like for you?
Whenever McLain passed away, it was definitely very difficult emotionally. And I just know personally that I'm grateful for the time that I was able to call him my friend. I know that the rest of the guys feel the same way. He was just a phenomenal person, phenomenal baseball player. And Mr. and Mrs. Mond, if you hear this, then you're part of the Seton Hill baseball family, and we're with you.
Yeah, and I talked with Maz off the air about how you guys have been able to talk a lot with Mr. and Mrs. Mond and how they have been close with the baseball program even after his passing, and that I'm sure helps them grieve and helps you guys grieve, and being able to share the stories, that you had with McLain the short time that he was on the Hill. Do you think something like this has kind of brought the team a bit closer, would you say?
I would say so. We've been leaning on each other. For me to sit here and tell you that it's getting easier as time goes on, I think would be a lie. But as far as the emotions that we're showing and controlling, I think that's improved. And that's just because we have each other and sort of that support system.
And in terms of focusing on baseball after something like this, it has to be difficult. But I'm sure there's been a lot of talk of let's play for Mac, right? I mean, what kind of challenges have been to focus now on baseball and get ready for the season opener?
You said it perfectly. It's been very challenging, sort of balancing your emotions and thinking about playing for Mac and that sort of thing. We're gonna take plenty of steps to honor him this year, and I think that everyone's gonna be really happy with that as far as playing for him and honoring him along the way.
Yeah, definitely going to be with you every step. He's going to be with you every step of the way, and we'll continue to be talking about him throughout the season. That's for sure. Tommy, thank you so much for doing this, man. I can't wait to see you back in the batter's box, back at third base, and the rest of your teammates. Good luck this weekend, the following weekend, and then we'll be with you in Florida. And again, as I said to Maz, get some momentum going.
Absolutely.
So you get to Florida, and then of course conference play will be here before you know it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That is Tommy Pelles, senior third baseman out of Greensburg Central Catholic High School. Well, we talked with Coach Maz and we talked with Tommy, and what we're going to do right now is, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, after one of the games that Mac pitched in last year at Seton Hill against Hempfield, we had a chance to talk to him after the game, and we thought it would be nice to replay that interview for you, and just you can kind of get the sense of how excited he was to play for Seton Hill, and of course how well he pitched in that game against Hempfield. So let's turn it over to the interview that we had with Mac on the Westmoreland Sports Network after his Penn Trafford team beat Hempfield at Seton Hill University. And we'll talk to you soon with Seton Hill University baseball. Don't forget, you can also follow the Griffins on Twitter and Instagram, and you can listen and watch the live broadcast here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Let's turn it over to that interview that I had a chance to do with McLain Mond here on WSN.
McLain, our Dom's Pizzeria player of the game. Congratulations, man. Just talk about how big of a win this was against Hempfield early on in the season for you.
I think it was a really good win. Second game. I mean, we've been on a win streak, and we're going to keep going.
Now, last year, you kind of, you've exercised the demons, beating North Allegheny. I know you really wanted that game. You played that game here at Seton Hill. And, I know you guys are really looking for that section championship as well. I know you're taking it one game at a time, too. But just talk about how much, I guess, confidence this team has right now. You're undefeated. You're 9-0. I know it's still a long season, but you beat North Allegheny, a really good team. You beat Hempfield, a really good team. Are you guys just playing with a ton of confidence right now?
We are playing with a ton of confidence right now, but we're also trying to stay humble and try to make the best and take it game by game because you never know. Anything can happen in any game. And like today, we didn't do that good like offensively like we normally do, but we have pitching and defense, and that's what wins us games.
Yeah, talk about the way your defense played behind you. Bobby Lane makes a really nice running catch in left field, and you guys made all the plays, and that's really important, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. We have always said that we got the best defense in the whips, and we always practice that, and we're going to keep it up.
Well, the defense starts with you today, and you were terrific again. 9 strikeouts, only a couple of walks, and you know, when Hempfield was able to get some guys on base on you, it didn't feel like you seemed pressured at all. I mean, what was your mindset as they were? Because it was only a 1-run game, 1-0. You guys were up by just that 1 run, and it didn't seem like you felt much pressure.
Well, most of the time, or actually all the time, I've never been like held by pressure. Like if the other team's like chirping a lot, it never gets to me, and I just go out there and I don't even hear it almost because I'm just so focused and
focused on the plate as opposed to on whose base on who's on base, I should say. Talking with McLain Mon here on the post game. What was really working for you today, Mac? Was anything specific? Any specific pitches working for you today?
At the beginning of the game, my curveball was working, and then eventually, because I threw a knuckle curveball, broke my nail. And
during the game today,
yeah, it happens all the time. Yeah. But then I started working with the circle change and then some split fingers.
Yeah. So you really vary up your pitches a lot, maybe compared to some other pitchers. And pitching from the left side, that has to be tough on opposing hitters when you're varying up your pitches like that. And you did a great job of working both sides of the plate, pounding the strike zone. Is that something when things are going well for you, those are the things that you're doing?
Try to work in and out all the time. And like you said, I do have 5 pitches, and I just like to throw them all.
Nice. Well, I'm sure that's something that made you very attractive to Coach Maz here at Seton Hill. This is the second time you played here this year. I know you played here in the past as well. You feel pretty comfortable here at Seton Hill?
I feel really comfortable here, and I love being here. It's a nice field, and I've always felt like I've played really well here.
Well, hopefully you'll continue to do that. Now, what kind of attracted you, though, to Seton Hill University? Why make the decision to play here?
Well, see, when I was growing up, I always used to go to camps here. I used to get, like, lessons here. And I just always loved, like, the coaching staff, and they always seemed, like, really good, and they have a winning season all the time. And I also wanted to play two-way, so I could play first base and pitcher. So,
is that something Maz talked with you about, that you'd probably get to swing a little bit too then?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know it didn't go well today, but
hey. It's
happy
baseball.
Days. Yeah,
that's baseball. That's right. And you know, we got to tip our cap too to Stuchel on the other side for Hempfield. I mean, you know, he kept you guys kind of off balance, and he pitched pretty well too. What was he doing so well, do you think, today to kind of keep you guys off the board, except for that one big run?
Soft thrower.
Yeah,
you can't hit him.
Yeah, right.
No, we'd rather face a kid throwing 90 than that any day.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty strange. I've known teams in the past that have done the same thing. You'd rather see guys that throw hard as opposed to guys that kind of throw the soft stuff and keep you off balance, and that's what Shane did here today. So your plan for, well, first of all, how are you going to get your fingernail fixed there before your next outing? You're just
let it heal.
Let that thing heal.
I just let it heal.
Get a little treatment on that.
And also I got liquid Band-Aid. Always works.
There you go. So you guys got a ton of momentum again. I know you're trying to stay humble, stay grounded. But what's the key, do you think, to your success as a team going forward now here against, now you're going to be playing Plum next?
I think to keep working hard and keep acting like a family, because we're all so close on this team, and we always hang out together and do all the stuff together. So we just stay close and go out there and compete our best like we always do.
Well, it might be making for another special season for Penn Trafford this year. And you got the best of your future teammate, Luke Hudson, a couple of times. Then he got one on you. So we'll see what happens the next time around when you guys battle, huh?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, buddy. I appreciate it, McLain Mond, and good luck the rest of the season. We'll talk again.
Thank you.
There you go, McLain Mond, the Dom's Pizzeria player of the game, and we'll be talking a lot about him in the future as well as we broadcast Seton Hill baseball here on WSN.